How exactly can we tie imagination into our lives? How can we use our imaginations more fully? And how is that even going to help us? There's a lot that goes into this, but I'm going to touch upon some key points in this video, which I believe should help you significantly if you implement them. And it does delve into a lot of Neville Goddard's work and manifestation. As I mentioned, Neville Goddard believes imagination is the gateway to reality. In fact, he says that everything is consciousness. Whether or not we agree with that entirely, it's an intriguing thought. It's an intriguing concept that everything is basically consciousness. There is nothing outside of consciousness. And I resonate with this on some levels. I believe God or the universe, in essence, is a sort of divine mind. And this is a little bit this is a parallel to Neville Goddard's concepts that imagination is God and consciousness is reality. But beyond these concepts and theories, how can we utilize some of his ideas? In our last video, we talked about the power of awareness and how awareness is really the first step if we want to start changing who we are so that we can manifest more in our lives, more that's in alignment with what we want and what we deserve, right? We have to manifest from ourselves, from our being. So we have to kind of get on the right path for ourselves, get on the right frequency in order to be able to draw these things into our lives. So after we've conquered the first step, which is awareness of where we're at, what our thought patterns, negative thought patterns are in our daily life, negative emotional patterns. If you want more information about that, I recommend you check out my last video on awareness, and I will link it below. But after we've tapped in the awareness and we've started to master awareness of where we're at and where we want to go, what we want to start doing is using our imagination to map out more of where we want to go, right? The awareness is more of where we're at. The imagination is more of where we want to go. And essentially, there's many ways we can do this through visualization and through feeling, right? So you can essentially start using visualization to imagine the person that you want to be, the person who has all these things. But here, you need to use imagination. You need to cultivate your imagination, and it may take some practice. I recommend people do this as they're waking up and as they're going to sleep, because it is the gateway to the subconscious mind during these states on the threshold between waking and sleeping. So if you want more specific strategies about what to how you're visualizing and whatnot, I will be going more into this in my other videos, but I don't want to stray too far off topic here today. So you're going to be using visualization, which is a form of your imagination. You're coming up with vivid images, but don't just come up with images. Come up with the feelings, right? Come up with the all sensory data. What would you be smelling, right? What would you be seeing? What would you be tasting, right? So this could be visualizing who you are, what your future is like. Maybe it's visualizing yourself in a new place, in a new job, in a new relationship. What would your life be like at that stage? What are you doing? How are you feeling? What are you seeing, touching, smelling, tasting? And this all brings your imagination into play, right? So the more we can develop our imagination, the better we're going to be at this. It's almost like a game, right? Using the imagination, writing a story in our mind. And I will be making another video about the power of stories in paradigms and in manifesting, because I really love that, and I really love the power within that, the story that we can develop about all these things. So we're going to be using visualization, and the imagination is also utilized when we're trying to feel new feelings, when we're trying to come up with the feeling states, how we would feel in these various situations, because that's just as important. And as Neville says, feeling is the secret. So you don't just want to come up with all these thoughts, these visualizations, but you want to feel them. You really want to feel them as if you're there. And that's where your imagination is going to the next level. You want to feel it as if you're there. What would you be feeling? Ask yourself that. Feel that. Try to delve into that and meditate on that as well. Okay. Another important Neville Goddard strategy that utilizes the imagination and can actually help you develop your imagination is the revision technique. So you can go back into your day as you're laying in bed and revise something. Maybe something was wrong with that day, or something was a little off and you wanted to change it a bit. Go back into the day in your imagination and change or revise that event in your favor, in a good way that is more in alignment with who you wish to become and what you want to draw into your life. And it's very powerful, and it can create a chain reaction. So you're going to use visualization, all these tools that we just talked about, in the same way, more or less, to do that. But you're revising something that happened in your life, and you can do this every night, and it's going to help you in many ways. Okay, but next, let's touch a little bit upon Joe Dispenza, right? Because Joe Dispenza talks about some of these things. No doubt he was inspired by Neville Goddard. And he mentions that visualization can help us remap our neural pathways. And that's what this is all about. We're changing our brain. We're changing the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind is ruling much of our lives. In fact, much of the brain's activity is subconscious. I think they say over 95%. I've heard even more, upwards of 99% or above. But regardless, that's a lot of your brain's activity is subconscious. So you really want to be working with the subconscious and helping nourish the subconscious through all these tools we mentioned. And it is sort of reprogramming the subconscious in a good way. So essentially, the imagination is key, guys. And I feel like many things about the mind, the subconscious, for example, just like the subconscious, just like awareness, the imagination has been sort of given a bad rap by our society, by our culture, and it's left behind as a sort of childish thing. But the imagination is not just a childish thing. It's not something to be left behind in childhood. It's not something to be scorned or looked down upon. Our imagination is the key to our identity. It's a key to who we are. It's a key to unlocking the gateways of what we want in life. I mean, if someone architect creates a beautiful establishment or carves a beautiful statue, he or she is utilizing their imagination on a high level, right? Which we know this, but a lot of times we don't think about it. Everything around us comes from the imagination, whether it's a table in your kitchen, whether it's a piece of art someone crafted, a story someone wrote, a feat of engineering that was invented. It all started in the imagination. Remember that, and take with you the gift of the imagination, which is divine. And with your imagination, the more you develop it, the more you work with it, the more you are going to essentially be able to craft your reality and mold your identity in a good way and into the identity that you want for yourself, right? So bring your identity back into your life. Your imagination back into your life. Honor your imagination and work with it, because it does take work, just like any mental faculty, to really get good at using it, to get more familiar with using it in a lot of these ways with some of these tools for visualization. So I encourage you to check out my last video on awareness, and we'll be coming out with another video on stories and how they can impact our paradigms, who we are, and where we're going, guys. Have a great day. This is Jess, and I'll see you in the next one.